Hello everyone and welcome to another episode of Star Wars Lore. In this episode we're going to be talking about the ETA-2 Actis Interceptor, otherwise known commonly as the Jedi Interceptor. The successor to the Delta 7 Aether Sprite class Jedi Starfighter, this agile ship quickly became known as the Jedi Interceptor. And it was this very class of ship that Anakin Skywalker cemented his reputation as the best Jedi pilot, and later on as Darth Vader hunted down the last Jedi. Now, through the cunning of Darth Sidious, the Jedi were actually manipulated into becoming the Republic's military commanders, and the technology developed for both sides during this conflict would ultimately later on serve the Empire, which included the Jedi Interceptors. Now, the key philosophy behind the design of the Interceptor over that of the Delta 7 was simplicity. The Interceptor was stripped back to its bare essentials, and was bereft of shields and so many other pilot support systems that only a Jedi could conceivably fly the ship in a combat situation. Although an astromech droid, a complete one and not the partial version as with the Delta 7, provided many functions the Interceptor lacked. The ship also still relied on the hyperspace flight rooms used by the previous Jedi fighters. Now, the frame of the ship was pared back from the Delta, so a bulbous cockpit sat between the forked wings. At the front of those, laser cannon far more powerful than those in the previous Jedi vessels stabbed forward, with additional lighter ion cannons set underneath the wings. On a few models, the ion cannons were swapped for missile launchers. Now, power restrictions meant the ship couldn't fire continuously for very long, but this wasn't deemed a concern considering the abilities of their pilots. Now, when the Jedi fighters entered combat, the ends of the wings flared up as hexagonal panels opened and locked. And these helped to cool the engines and other overtaxed systems. The resemblance then between this starfighter and the TIE fighter was not a chance one. The ETA-2 Actis was a key influence on the TIE's design. They used virtually the same targeting computer, for example, and both had twin ion engines. The first official prototype of the ETA-2 Actis fighter to see combat was flown by Anakin Skywalker at the Battle of the Vale Nebula. Now, the craft, which was designed to test the power and weapon systems shortly before they put the final model into production, it performed well enough under Skywalker's control to bring down a Confederate ace pilot and thereby swing the battle for the Republic. However, the final Actis craft looked very different from that prototype. Now, many believe that the ship Kuat had sent for Anakin to test in the conflict at the Vale Nebula was the first prototype of its kind. And that wasn't strictly true, as Anakin had already tested the planned space frame of the ETA-2 Actis, for example, along with a number of other prototypes. And Skywalker's very full involvement in the development of the ETA-2 was such that it could easily have been said that many of the starfighter craft he flew after the Aether Sprite included the likes of the Azure Angel 1 and 2, which were both, in essence, prototypes of the Actis. And Kuat itself never actually stopped tweaking the design of the ETA-2 and produced a number of variants during the latter stages of the Clone Wars. Now, these went beyond the non-standard paint jobs favoured by Anakin, Mace Windu and Sesei Tin. In fact, it was Master Tin who flew a heavy defense version of the fighter after he had removed various offensive capabilities from his own fighter that he deemed unnecessary. Sesei Tin was able to navigate hyperspace without needing an astromech thanks to his Jedi abilities. Clone pilots could not do this, but their version of the ETA-2 still lacked an astromech socket. This was because the fighters were intended to be launched from Star Destroyers. It was this version that became one of the first starfighters flown in any significant numbers by the pilots of the Galactic Empire. Of course, the legacy of the ETA-2 Actis would later be seen in the design and deployment of the Imperial TIE fighter. And that is the ETA-2 Actis Interceptor, otherwise known as the Jedi Interceptor. So, if you like the video, be sure to drop a like, subscribe if you're new, just to keep up to date with all my latest videos, leave a comment or two, let me know what your thoughts of the video, and I'll talk to you all on the next one, guys. I'll see you all later.